Hello and a very warm welcome to World This Week by Latest Laws. This is our weekly program, so subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified. My name is Monica Rahar and let's get started by having a look at Supreme Court this week. The Honorable Apex Court, while hearing a civil appeal regarding a case of permanent injunction, has upheld a High Court's decision as a second appellate court while stating that a High Court is not obliged to frame a substantial question of law in case it finds no error in the findings recorded by the first appellate court. Ordinarily, a substantial question of law is to be framed mandatorily by a High Court, which is acting as a second appellate court by virtue of the provisions contained under Section 100 of the CPC. The state government's consent is mandatory for a CBI investigation in its jurisdiction, and the agency cannot on its own accord initiate a probe or conduct such a probe without the consent and approval of the state government concerned. This is what the Supreme Court has held. Everybody cannot be allowed to prescribe medicines, observed the top court, while hearing a plea against Kerala High Court order which had stated that Ayush medical practitioners can prescribe government-approved mixtures and tablets only as an immunity booster for COVID-19. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is SEBI, has filed a petition in the Supreme Court to direct business tycoon Subrata Roy to pay an amount of Rs 62,000 crore immediately or cancel his parole if he does not pay so. The Supreme Court in the year 2012 had ruled that Sahara Group companies violated securities laws and illegally raised over US $3.5 billion, and due to non-payment of such an amount, Roy was sent to jail. The Apex Court has nullified an order of the Karnataka High Court which has put a 10-year restriction on 9 Foreigner Tablighi Jamaat Members on visiting India. These members, they attended a congregation which is of religious nature in Delhi during the onset of COVID-19 outbreak. In an affidavit which was submitted by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the centre has stated that Sudarshan TV's program, which is called Bindas Bol UPSC Jihad, has the likelihood of promoting communal attitudes. The channel was cautioned to be careful in future and warned of strict penal action in case of any program code violations. The top court has granted an extension of time till 31st of May 2021 to the government of Uttarakhand to remove 4 illegal religious structures in areas of Haridwar that encroached upon public lands. The Supreme Court has refused to lift the stay on release of Amitabh Bachchan starrer Jhund and has dismissed an appeal against the Telangana High Court order which had stalled the movie's screening over a copyright issue. Now let's proceed to the next segment of our news analysis and have a look at the Delhi High Court this week. The Delhi High Court has stated that a petition under Section 9 of the Arbitration Act cannot be disposed of ex parte, especially when coercive orders are passed. Government of Delhi has stated before the court that a private vehicle is a public place and not a personal zone, and thus every person moving around in his private or official vehicle must compulsorily wear a mask. The court has issued notice announcing the transfer and posting of 215 judicial officers with immediate effect. The High Court has directed the University of Delhi to give details of the courses, the results of which for open book examinations have been declared, and also has sought information of those remaining courses, the results of which are yet to be declared, as the exams were conducted way back in August. Delhi High Court State Court Management Systems Committee has conceived and conceptualized the project for establishment of Digital NI Act Court at District Courts level on the direction of the Honorable Chief Justice. Now let's proceed and have a look at the Bombay High Court this week. The High Court, while hearing the plea against government's disinvestment in BPCL, has stated that government is clearly within its rights, just like any other ordinary shareholder, to sell its shares or even its controlling stake. Strategic sale in its stake is a matter of its own policy, and the government cannot be faulted merely for adopting one particular policy rather than the other. The court, while allowing a joint plea for waiver of the statutory period before divorce by mutual consent, gave the order considering the circumstances in the present matter where the woman was pregnant from another man's child. So ordinarily, a compulsory period of 6 months is to be observed by virtue of Section 13 capital B subsection 2 of the Hindu Marriage Act. However, there are precedents which show that this period can be waived off if the parties agree to such a divorce, and there is no need to make the parties wait because there are no chances to amicably settle the dispute. Now let's proceed to the High Court of Punjab and Haryana. The High Court, in the case of Hassan Mohammed versus the state of Haryana, while rejecting anticipatory bail plea of a person for an offence under the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, has stated that in a civilized society, the sex of the fetus cannot be a determining factor for having a lease of life to see this world. If permitted, the consequences would be devastating. The civilized itself would be endangered. Now let's move on to the Madras High Court. Making a move in the context of the derogatory post by retired Justice C.S. Kernan against women and judiciary, the Tamil Nadu Bar Council has moved a criminal petition in the Madras High Court seeking action against him. Now let's have a look at the Karnataka High Court. The High Court, in the case of Master Bharat S versus the Secretary Education Department Government of Karnataka, has made a historic move whereby they directed 2 hours extra time for a student who was genetically disabled. Now let's proceed with the miscellaneous segment of our news analysis. The Central Information Commission, while considering an appeal from a woman, has held that the wife may seek information related to the husband's income under the Right to Information Act. In a huge setback for e-commerce giant Amazon, the Competition Commission of India on Friday has approved the much-anticipated future group Reliance Retail deal. Social media giant Twitter has yet again faced censorship from Indian legislatures over the non-taking of posts which were critical of India's Supreme Court and judges that the parliamentary panel called obscene. The UGC has reiterated that arrear exams cannot be called or cancelled, citing the COVID-19 crisis, and Tamil Nadu government's consent or decision in this regard was against the guidelines of UGC. The UGC has made the submission while responding to a PIL writ petition to restrain 22 universities in the state of Tamil Nadu from publishing results of students' first to pre-final semesters without conducting the arrear exams. The I&B Ministry has begun a consultation with various stakeholders to decide if advertisements of entities which are involved in online gambling should be allowed to be broadcasted on television. Interestingly, a lawyer in UP has filed a civil suit against former US President Barack Obama's latest book, which is called The Promised Land, in which he had mentioned Congress leaders Rahul Gandhi and Manmohan Singh. The lawyer has demanded an FIR to be lodged as the book apparently insults the leaders and hurt the sentiments of their followers. The matter is scheduled to be heard on December 1st. Now let's proceed with the last segment of our news analysis, which is the international news. The Mumbai terror attack mastermind and Jamaat-ud-Dawa chief Hafiz Saeed was sentenced to 10 years in jail by an anti-terrorism court in Pakistan in 2 more terror-related cases. The Trump administration has approached appeals court against an order by the district court which had granted a preliminary injunction against the travel ban for H-1B and other work-related visa holders. Pfizer Inc. and its group companies have filed a petition in a U.S. court against Aurobindo Farm Limited and Dr. Reddy's Lab, alleging that the Indian drug maker were planning to separately come out with generic versions of its blockbuster multi-billion-dollar drug, which is called Ibrance. Ibrance is the name of the brand, while the generic name of this brand is Palbociclib, before the expiration of its patent. Ibrance is used for treatment of cancer, breast cancer. That's all we have for this week. Thank you for being with us, and the link of all these news updates will be made available in the description box. You may refer to them for more information. Thank you.